Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. I'm Texas Dad. This is my son Matt, and today we just wanted to cover a really quick article. This is a Popular Mechanics article. We'll link it down below. And this article was written off of the back of a speech given at the World Economic Forum, and it's very interesting. And so I thought we could we would read through it and maybe just discuss it a little bit. But the topic of the article says companies already have the ability to decode your brainwaves. It won't be long before your boss knows exactly what you're thinking.
Man,
That's really encouraging to think about that. And it also you might want to evaluate whether or not you want a boss or not. But,
yeah, for real.
Artificial intelligence is now able to decode brain activity to unlock emotions, productivity, and even preconscious thought, according to a futurist. Wearable technology that's already available is assisting the brainwave monitoring technology. This new world of surveillance has multiple avenues for good or bad. I'd love to see how it can be used for good. It wasn't like Duke University futurist Nita Farahany wanted to bring non-stop doom and gloom during her recent Battle for Your Brain presentation at last week's World Economic Forum in Davos, but maybe she wanted to alarm us at least a bit. According to her, the technology to decode your brainwaves already exists, and some companies are likely already testing the tech. You may be surprised to learn it is a future that has already arrived, Farahany said in her talk, which you can now watch below. Artificial intelligence has enabled advances in decoding brain activity in ways we never before thought possible. What you think, what you feel, it's all just data. Data that in large patterns can be decoded using artificial intelligence. Now, what she's explaining is the technocracy. You know, the technocracy and the technocratic oligarchy and the technocrats and this emerging, I forget who originally coined the word. I know that it was coined by a Fabian socialist. But the concept of the scientism of humanity, and to say that it's all just data, you know, that the way you think and the way you feel is data. It completely dehumanizes you, and it breaks you down into these quantifiable zeros and ones, I guess, and it's completely void of experiential reality.
Yeah.
Because we're not data, and it's basically one, it's dehumanizing. Two, it's part of the transhumanism movement. The reason you would want to dehumanize humanity is so that you can transhumanize humanity. And it's based on pseudoscience. It's based on scientism. I'm not saying that it doesn't work per se, whatever that means. But it's very interesting because it's all opinions extrapolated from scientism, not necessarily observable, repeatable, and duplicatable.
I think it's a very dangerous tool, being able to monitor your brainwaves and stuff like that. Already at FedEx and stuff like that, they've already installed cameras and trackers and stuff to like 24/7 or whatever while they're working in the trucks to monitor if they're like pulling out their phone and how fast they're going. But then if you would add on like your brain waves to that, it could be crazy.
Right. And you know, part of their excuse for this is I forget what the actual real data is on employees and actually how many hours they work in the day. I think it's less than 3 hours because they spend most of their day distracted and doing social media and doing everything but what they're getting paid to do.
And I know there's been a lot of layoffs, like big companies like what was it, Google and these other bigger companies.
There's been massive layoffs
and just
by large
massive,
tech
like
companies.
just getting rid of people. And I think it's because they're finding a lot of these people that are barely working at all, and they're just kind of leeching off the company.
Right.
And when they do these mass flushes, like when they just turn a bunch of people off and fire them, they are firing some good people when they do that, when they do these mass firings. But, they got a lot of people that are just not doing anything. And they're just sucking up the payroll, sitting back, drinking their Starbucks.
Which is much like most of society, unfortunately.
And then people are freaking out like, how could they ever lay off 10,000 people or whatever? I'm like,
well, if they can do it and still be profitable and continue to produce, that says something as well.
Exactly. But, and especially with the new ChatGPT and everything rolling out, they're going to be able, sadly, the stupid AI is going to be able to do.
Replace the humans.
Yep, replace them. Replace the humans. Yep.
Using wearable devices, whether hats, headbands, tattoos placed behind the ear.
Wait, what?
Or earbuds, the sensors can pick up EEG signals and use AI-powered devices to decode everything from emotional states, concentration levels, simple shapes, and even your preconscious responses to numbers, i.e., an invitation to steal your bank card PIN without you even knowing. In one dystopian but very real scenario, an employer can use AI to monitor an employee, and if they're wearing the right device, and see if their mind is wandering or if they are focused on a primary or an unrelated activity. When you combine brainwave activity together with other forms of surveillance technology, Farahany said, the power becomes quite precise. Additional technology designed into a watch can pick up electromyography signals to grasp brain activity as it sends signals down your arm to your hand. By pairing these technologies together, said Farahany, we will be able to manage our personal technology with our thoughts. This is all part of the transhumanist agenda. She continued, the coming future, and I mean near-term future, these devices become the common way to interact with all other devices. It is an exciting and promising future, but also a scary future. Surveillance of the human brain can be powerful, helpful, useful, transform the workplace, and make our lives better. It also has a dystopian possibility of being used to exploit and bring to the surface our most secret self. Oh, so you mean you have absolutely no privacy? That's interesting.
Yep.
Farahany used the Davos session to call for a promise of cognitive liberties. Such things as freedom of thought and mental privacy. That's scary. Usually when they say that's their goal and agenda, that's usually the opposite of what they're doing. She said this technology has the power to do good when a person chooses to use it to better understand their own mental health or well-being. Brainwave activity could even help signal future medical issues. And as more people track their brainwaves, the data sets get larger, enabling companies to glean more info from the same data. What's real interesting is she talks about how good this or how bad it can be, but all the examples are of employers like manipulating their employees and monitoring their employees, which is not it says you can use this for good if you use this on yourself, basically, to help yourself and all this stuff. But the application that's being represented is a complete surveillance application of employees. Think 1984.
Exactly.
Oh, I think Bergeron, there was that movie. I forget the kid's first name. It was this movie, and they put a headband on you to make you stupid.
Yeah.
And it was from like the 80s or 90s. I remember the guy's last name was Bergeron. The title was some dude's name, and they wore this like headband to make you stupid.
Wow.
And
no way a movie's predicting reality.
Yeah.
Shocker.
So there you go. Once again, we are living in a very cheesy dystopian sci-fi novel. But that has a flip side. More and more of what is in the brain, she said, will become transparent.
That's not an upside.
So what's in the brain will become transparent. So you have no privacy of thought.
Yep.
You'll have no personal opinion. So even if in this politically correct, postmodern, cultural Marxist world that we live in, where you can't rightly have an opinion. So now, even if you hold an opinion to yourself, they'll still want to know what your opinion is so that they can assign you to the right reprogramming camp or something like that. But yeah, it's very disconcerting. It's very interesting. It's fascinating how people continue to adopt invasive tech out of convenience, and out of mobility and Bluetooth and all these different things. And we all use technology, but this continues to become more and more invasive, and more the Internet of Things and track and trace. And it's just what Yuval Noah Harari was talking about is under the skin, and that under the skin surveillance. And this thing continues, and people have been warning about this stuff since the early 2000s, and we're watching this stuff continue to unfold. And all these people that early on warned about it, oh, you're tinfoil weirdos, you're Alex Jonesers and all this stuff, and now this stuff continues to come out, and we watch it continue to unfold in real time. It's just very interesting. What do you think? What do you think about all this, Matt?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because the globalists absolutely hate that. Their first move was freedom of speech, but now the next big step is going to be freedom of thought.
Right.
So now you're just going
the thought police.
You're not even going to be able to think anything, which is going to be painful.
Yeah, we're tracking your thoughts, and we're going to stop the crime before it occurs. And
from the inside of your brain.
Yeah, and that totally redefines like guilty. That's funny. I said guilty until innocent until proven guilty, because now, before you even consider the action, they are going to precognitively stop you.
Exactly.
And so that's the type of control, manipulation, and then you have the whole other flip side of it is if these things can be read and monitored and influenced, can they be seeded and can they be planted?
Yep.
And this is where you get into a whole deeper nefarious level of
fake and everything.
Yeah, them literally deep faking your thoughts and your emotions, and it's complete and total.
And once they know what your brainwaves are, they could literally mind control you. There's going to be ways that they're going to tinker around with being able to mess with your brainwaves, and then you won't even be able to control your own thoughts.
Hey, let's jump right off of that article, and let's go into this article. Yeah, so check this out. This article is from 2014.
Okay.
Air Force research how to use social media to control people like drones. Containment control model looks at how groups of influencers can manipulate people. From July 17th, 2014. Facebook isn't the only organization conducting research into how attitudes are affected by social media. The Department of Defense, the DoD, has invested millions of dollars over the past few years investigating social media networks, and how information spreads across them. While Facebook and Cornell University researchers manipulated what individuals saw in their social media streams, military-funded research including projects funded by Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. Social Media and Strategic Communications, SMISC program, which look primarily into how messages from influential members of social media networks propagate. One study funded by the Air Force Research Laboratory has gone a step further. A less investigated problem is once you've identified the networks, how do you manipulate it towards an end? Said Warren Dixon, a PhD in electrical and computer engineering and director of the University of Florida's Nonlinear Controls or Robotics Research Group. Nixon was the principal investigator on an Air Force Research Laboratory funded product, which published its findings in February in a paper entitled Containment Control for a Social Network with State-Dependent Connectivity. The research demonstrates that the mathematical principles used to control groups of autonomous robots can be applied to social networks in order to control human behavior. If properly calibrated, the mathematical models developed by Dixon and his fellow researchers could be used to sway opinion of social networks toward a desired set of behaviors, perhaps in concert with some social media effects, cyber weaponry developed by the NSA and its British counterparts, GCHQ. Because they're always, the Anglo-American establishment always has to work in lockstep with each other. Soft Infoware, military social network research, has been ongoing over the past decade as part of the DoD's efforts to leverage open source intelligence. And the biggest part of all the social media networks and DARPA funding and DoD and all this stuff is, if you recognize In-Q-Tel's involvement in the foundation of all of these different social media platforms and how the CIA and the DoD were hand in glove, and these were the funding sources of all these private companies. That's what's so funny when these crazy liberals make this excuse for, well, these are private companies and they can do what they want. These absolutely are certainly are not. They're definitely cutouts. They're definitely CIA and DoD cutouts, but they're absolutely not private. They're publicly funded with tax dollars, and of course, we see none of the rates of return, and the national deficit is before the off-balance sheets and all the lost money is what, 31 trillion or whatever, which we can't even fathom or conceive. But with Social Security and all the different off-balance sheet liabilities, is probably, I bet it's probably getting really close to $100 trillion, which is even more mind-numbingly unfathomable. Yeah. Military social network research has been ongoing over the past decade. So this was written in 2014. And so it's been going on for the past decade. So that would be, 2004, right? As part of the DoD's efforts to leverage open source intelligence and use social network analysis using mobile phone records, other electronic relationships, and physical world relationships to target manufacturers of improvised explosive devices and leaders of insurgent cells. Along the way, the research has shifted more towards hearts and minds goals than search and destroy ones. DARPA launched its SMISC program in 2011 to examine ways social networks could be used for propaganda, and what broadly falls under the euphemistic title of Military Information Support Operations, MISO, formerly known as psychological operations. So they're telling you, right? They're telling you about the PSYOPs, and they're telling you what they've been doing. They're telling you about the propaganda machine. Early in July, DARPA published a list of research projects funded by SMISC program. They included studies that analyzed the Twitter's followings of Lady Gaga and Justin Bieber, among others. Investigations into the spread of internet memes. A study by the Georgia Tech Research Institute into automatically identifying deceptive content in social media with linguistic cues and modeling user attitude toward controversial topics in online social media. An IBM research study that tapped into Twitter's feeds to track responses to topics like fracking for natural gas. Isn't that interesting? It's so incredible. It's been so choreographed.
Wow.
The AFRL sponsored research by Dixon, Zane Kahn, and Justin Klotz of the University of Florida NCR Group, and Eduardo L. Pasilia, whatever his name is, of AFRL's Munitions Directorate at Elgin Air Force Base, was prompted by a meeting a Dixon attended while preparing a think piece for the Defense Science Study Group. All of these, RAND Corporation, all of these military think tanks and the military industrial complex and the funding, and DARPA, and this university and that university, and the Anglo-American establishment and the Prussian education system. And the whole thing's been hijacked, and you want to know how? We're like in postmodern, post-truth America, and people continue to send their kids to these government-funded propaganda cesspools that are all part of the problem and not part of the solution. They are literally creating the problem and then treating all of us like their little petri dish. And they're going to, get their funding so they can figure out what makes us tick, so how they can technocratically influence us to act the way they think we should act. Yep. But we'll attach this article as well. It's a longer article, but it just talks about remote control. While DARPA's research funding comes with specific ethical and legal constraints, just like all those other operations, and the Tuskegee Airmen and all that stuff. All those psychological experiments that our government has performed on the citizenry. They were really concerned about ethical and legal constraints. I'm sure that ethical and legal constraints were applied here. It's clear that there is another research being conducted in social media manipulation not happening with such oversight. As ARS reported earlier this week, documents provided to the Intercept's Glenn Greenwald by former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden showed that the British intelligence agency, GCHQ, had developed tools specifically aimed at leveraging social media for effects operations. The organization has shared its methods with the NSA, and these capabilities have been used in Afghanistan. So, they haven't been used here, y'all. They've been used in Afghanistan and elsewhere to shape information available to members of targeted organizations online via mobile phones. I wonder if they use them in the Ukraine and in Russia and all that stuff. That's interesting. Because all of these color revolutions just spontaneously happen.
Yep.
These aren't designed and funded. And no. The Defense Department already uses some social media manipulation techniques as part of its information support operations, targeting message boards and websites associated with foreign groups that are considered extremists. Like people that get banned on YouTube.
Yep.
We're extreme. We have extreme thought. That's why we need to be able to monitor your thoughts and help you to not have bad thoughts before you have them.
Yeah.
So it's just the technocracy, the technocrats, social media, In-Q-Tel, these all things are all interlaced and interwoven. And simultaneously, we can discuss these things. We can talk about it. We can put the information out there, and people can connect the dots for themselves, and they can wake up. So while all of this technology is absolutely being used for nefarious purposes, the reason that these nefarious calculations must be done is because simultaneously, as this ability to communicate that the internet has provided the world, and the instantaneous access to real-time information. It really disabled the deep state and all these nefarious people from covering up and curating and fabricating the narrative. So now they have to proactively attempt to use technology to, again, attempt to cover up reality in real time. And that's really what this is all about. So we just wanted to bring you this information. Y'all stay diligent and just think for yourself.
Yeah.
And
While you can.
And read, do your own research, and don't trust the science.
Yeah.
And grow some food and get some chickens.
Absolutely.
And, because, if you have eggs, man, you're like a millionaire.
Oh, literally. If you want to support what we do here, we would love for you to go check out TheTexasBoys.com. We got all types of stuff. We got T-shirts. We are the CO2,
yeah.
And then the Venn diagram T-shirt, and all types of stuff. Non-pasteurized honey with non-vaccinated honeybees for the time being. And we got some coffee, all types of awesome stuff over there. Go check it out. That's one of the best ways to support the channel. Also, just giving this video a thumbs up, dropping a comment, and subscribing also helps a lot. We're going to be trying to put out some more topical discussions and more podcasts and stuff like that. So
going to be doing some videos on some financial stuff.
Exactly.
And, where we invested and where are we investing and what are we doing, and the philosophies and concepts behind that.
Exactly.
And then also the results. So I think that's all important. We want to try to demonstrate and illustrate what we've done. We moved 9 years ago now. So we're going to be, after this next year, we're going to be a decade.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how not only what our plans were and how it's all come to fruition in light of current events and different things. It's fascinating, and it's a blessing, and we want to share it with y'all, and we appreciate y'all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.